Our priority is always a 4-step process. It'll be a 5-step for some of you. The 4 steps are this: strip the weapon off of the person. That's goal number 1. Immediately after stripping the weapon, in whatever configuration, in whatever hold you might have that weapon, pass it to the other hand. We call it a surgeon's pass, just like you're passing a scalpel to a surgeon. Pass it firmly into the web of the hand, closing the bottom fingers around the handle of the weapon, and then switch and ready for work. We do not want to say, well, I stripped it with my right hand, but I'm a right-handed shooter, so I'm going to pass it to my left, then pass it back to my right. We don't have time for that, and we don't have any margin for that kind of fine motor skill. If it has been stripped with the right hand in this grip, pass it back immediately to your left hand. So we strip it, step 1. Step 2, surgeon pass it to the second hand. The third thing we do is there is always a chance during any disarm that the weapon will malfunction. What we prescribe after stripping and replacing it to the second hand is to punch with the barrel of the weapon into the assailant. And this is done for a number of reasons. Number 1, it does not rely on a functioning weapon. If the weapon ends up having to malfunction during the disarm, the muzzle punch into the face is always going to work. 2, it's going to create distance and a little bit more reaction time, which is important when you're getting your brain together in an extremely tense situation. 3, it's going to allow you to retract that weapon, and it's going to aid your efforts to retain the weapon. If I lose the weapon right away again, obviously bad day for me. So once we have the weapon in hand, we're going to train ourselves to punch with the weapon, as you'll see in our disarms, immediately, and we'll show you a number of drills where you can enhance that skill. And right after that muzzle punch, we're going to take it back, chambered tightly on the body. Now, there are a number of ways of doing that. Some people will keep it in a vertical position, and they will use the meat of their wrist to index that on the body. Some will use the elbow. All of these are valid. I generally advocate pommel of the weapon on the body. That's how I've trained it. So the weapon will be somewhere between a 30 to 45 degree angle. The reason for the indexation, a point of familiarity, whether it be the elbow, the forearm, or the pommel, is that this gives you a reference point that you can always go to. And once you achieve it, whatever training you've done in that position will be called upon. Secondly, it's extremely tight and stable in any of those positions. I simply want to ensure that I'm allowing enough position, enough space for the slide to move back so that the weapon is not jamming up on me, and I don't want it so close that any cloth, fabric, or gear is going to get caught in there and cause a malfunction. For that reason, it's either going to be kept at a small space, about a fist distance in front, or else if it's closer, it needs to be on an angle. You don't want to have it close and jammed up against the chest like that. So it's going to be a matter of preference. Again, mine is 30 to 45 degrees in that position. Some people advocate placing the second hand on top of the slide so they can get a single shot off, but then the weapon will not rechamber. This is fine. It's a single shot approach. The idea here is that by grabbing the slide, you're keeping absolute safety and control of the weapon should the aggressor try to retake it off of you. I generally advocate taking the second hand either on the body, and so my preference is to have both thumbs pursed together in that manner, or sometimes facing each other. And when it's tight on the body, the hand will be extremely comfortable and the wrist alignment will be very strong. I'm folding it over so you can see it here. So this is my preferred approach. Others like to keep the hand clear and up on the body, chambered just like the weapon, so that there's no danger of it getting in front of the line of fire. So you'll see some of my students on their disarm, strip, and replace, they'll place their hand here or pull their gear out of the way. That's one preference. You'll see others that will hold it here, and you will see some that do index and hold up on the top to get a single shot off. It is really a matter of preference. So I said at the outset that we use a 4-step or a 5-step, and this is why I'm saying it. Number 1 is the strip, number 2 is the replace, number 3 is the hit, number 4 we bring it back. In this position, I always want to re-rack the weapon, just in case there was a malfunction. Sometimes during the context of the disarm, the weapon can get jammed, which means when you go to fire, it may not work. When we rack the weapon, it can be a so-called needless rack wherein the bullet is being discharged, a perfectly viable shell, and there was no malfunction. So yes, you're going to lose one bullet, but we're looking to survive the context right there, perform 1 to 2 shots into the center of mass, usually into the low stomach or the hip pan, which is going to have huge biomechanical affectation on the person and usually will drop them right to the ground. It is up to you for step 5 if you are going to seek to shoot. We train ourselves to shoot back in most cases. Some students do not wish to. So they will simply strip, reply it into the hand, punch, take it back, shout out warnings, and if the person continues to come in, some do continue to punch and use the weapon and go for further steps before they would volunteer for shooting. Again, it is a matter of personal opinion. I'm not going to advocate what your moral limit should be. But throughout our disarms, you're going to see this procedure: strip, hand, punch, chamber, rack, and work from that position. And we'll show you protocols as well for continued aggression if after your first shot or two to the center of mass the person continues to come, how to hit again, and how to move the weapon to keep it dynamic and difficult for disarms. Now, without further ado, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the disarms.